Topo Athletic is committed to lifelong health and better movement. Topo builds running shoes for those who get out there every day regardless of weather, speed, energy, or mood. Their distinctive fit and feel combines instinctive human movement with modern performance and lightweight comfort to help you keep going, keep trying, and keep moving. Discover the Topo difference and step into a run experience unlike any other.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our 59th episode of our Instagram Fireside Chats. We have a very special episode today. We will be talking with Melody and Jacob Bateman of Trail to 100 and Pine Tree Runner account here. And I have both been on their podcast, and you can find it on our website under the news tab. So it'll be nice and fun to reverse the roles this time around and have them on the other side and receiving the questions. So we'll get and Melody and Jacob here in a moment. While we're getting them onto the conversation, please feel free to ask questions. Posting your comments in there if that works too. We'll make sure to get them over to Melody and Jacob as we're chatting with them. And this is actually taking a lot more than I thought. I thought we'd be able to get everybody on here pretty quickly. A lot of accepting here. All right, so we got one on. We got Jacob on, so now we got to get Melody on. Oh, look at that.
Hello.
It's almost like we've done this before.
Or something.
I was giving the audience a little bit of a background on the fact that and I have both been on your podcast, Trail to 100, which can be found on our website, runtrimag.com, under the news section. So now it'll be fun to kind of reverse the tables a little bit and have you guys on the receiving end of the questions.
Yeah.
For sure. It's always a little weird being on this side.
Are you more nervous now being on the receiving end of the questions, Melody, as opposed to asking the questions?
No, honestly, I'm never really nervous because it's just a conversation, right?
Yeah.
It's just different.
Perfect.
She's not nervous because she knows if crap hits the fan, it falls on me.
That's one of the nice things about having two people do a podcast, right?
So we normally try to break the ice with a fun question, which we don't necessarily have to break the ice because we know each other, but this will certainly dictate who conducts the interview and the questions, whether it's or I. So Jacob, I'm going to start with you. Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
No way.
Yeah, okay.
No way.
Not the welcome I expected back from the call.
Melody, how about you? I think we dropped her. We got to get her back.
Yeah, it looks like we lost Melody.
I had to guess from the first part of her Instagram handle that maybe yes, but I might be wrong. The Pine Tree Runner.
There we go. Sorry about that. Not sure what happened. I was kicked out for a second.
That's probably based on the answer you're about to give to whether or not pineapple on pizza is acceptable. Is it yay or nay for pineapple on pizza?
If I have to say yay or nay, I'm gonna say yay. I don't love it, but I also don't hate it. If someone gave me pineapple on pizza, I would eat it, but it wouldn't be my first choice.
You're a much nicer person than I am because I wouldn't eat it. I'd throw that shit right in the garbage. Like, no thanks.
You can't even pick the pineapple off because it's so sweet that juice gets baked into the cheese, so you could still taste it even when you pick the pieces off. It just ruins the whole pizza.
No self-respecting New Yorker is putting that crap on there, man. I'm telling you.
I'm a self-respecting Californian.
Well, this is good. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it. We definitely want to dive into, Jacob, your recent accomplishment over the weekend at Scout Mountain. But before we get started, we want the audience to know you guys are the hosts of Trail to 100 podcast. And Melody, I'll start with you. Why did you guys start this podcast? What was the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, well, we started the podcast right after we were married, and we both had just recently graduated, and we both got our first big boy, big girl jobs, and we were like, yay, we made it. We got married, we graduated college, we got jobs, and, now we're supposed to live happily ever after, right? But we realized that that's not how it works, and we were really bored, and we didn't really know what to do next in our lives. Just the mundane, going to work, coming home. We were like, so this is it? Like, this is what we worked our whole lives for? We were craving some kind of growth or progression. So we decided to get into running. When we decided to run 100 miles, we were trying to find resources because we didn't have any friends or family who could ever run 100 miles. We had no idea what we were doing, and we couldn't find anything for beginners. We could find a whole bunch of like how to shave 2 seconds off your 100-mile race or how to podium, and we were like, no, we just want to get there before the cutoff. So we were like, let's document our journey of running 100 miles for other people who are like us, who just want to cross the finish line. And so it started with us just documenting our own journey. And then after we did our 100-mile race, then we started interviewing other first-time 100-mile racers.
Jacob, what year did you guys start the podcast?
2020. So we started right before COVID hit, because that's the year we signed up for our first 100-mile race. Was probably like December of 19 is we signed up for our 100, and we knew what happened after that, so we started documenting it. And so it was kind of cool how we started documenting it, and we were training originally for a race, the Ute 100 down in southern Utah, but then obviously got canceled. And so you kind of get, as you go back in those episodes and listen to it, we have an episode where like, well, our race got canceled, we don't know what to do now. And then we finally figured out, let's just put on our own. So our first 100 was us just creating our own course and going out and running it and having our family crew us along the way.
So did you actually plot out a course, and it wasn't like I'm going to run around the block 100 times kind of thing?
Yeah. Yeah, we wanted to still be in the mountains. We wanted to feel like we were moving somewhere. So we actually plotted out a 50-mile loop. And it turned out it was really hard to direct the family and friends to the different spots. Most of them aren't runners. Most of them don't really quite get it, we aren't from a family of runners. And so it was almost double the stress of you're playing race director and running the course at the same time. So, but it turned out great, and we ended up getting it done in a very long amount of time. But I guess that's why you do your own, because you can go as slow as you want, right? So we got it done, and we learned a lot through it.
So Melody, what was the craziest question or reaction from your family when you were like, hey, by the way, we're going to run this 50-mile loop twice and we need your help?
I think at that point, like, we did a marathon, and then we did a 50, and then we did this 100. And I think by that point, everyone was just kind of used to us doing crazy things, and they were just like, okay, you guys are freaking way to go. Good for you.
I remember most of it was like through the night. People were like, so you're not stopping to sleep?
Run the whole thing?
Yeah, like people didn't get that. Like 50 miles each day and you sleep at night, right? Like, no, we're just going to go through it all.
Might take a nap on the dirt, but that's besides.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, definitely on the dirt.
So Melody, I'll put this back to you again. So you start this podcast, 2020, you run your first 100. You didn't find information out there for beginners. What are you hoping, Trail to 100 becomes, from where you started 2-3 years ago? Where do you see it going?
Yeah, well, if we would have known what we know now when we ran our first 100, it would have been so different. And I don't regret anything we did. It was an amazing experience. We just want to make it easier for people like us who maybe didn't grow up in the running world, that this is totally new to them. We want to give them all the tools they need to run 100 miles. And we want to make it more accessible to people. We feel like there's there's so many people out there who feel like, running 100 miles, that's impossible. I could never do that. But here's the thing. Everyone who ever runs 100 miles at some point said, oh, I'll never do that. Right. And we just want to let people know, like, yeah, we just want people to know, like, no, you literally can. Like, we've had people on the podcast who went from couch to 100-miler in 1 year. Mm-hmm. And it will change your life. And I feel like Jacob, we can kind of get into that more as Jacob goes over his Scout 100 journey. But we just want to help people do this big thing that seems impossible and let them know that it actually is possible. Yeah. You have that strength in you.
Yeah. So it's not as crazy as you might have thought it once was. I mean, it's still crazy, but it's doable. It's doable. It's definitely possible.
Jason, before you ask your question, since you bring that up, I wanted to ask if there's anything you two have particularly learned from any of your guests on the show that you didn't know before during this journey of like bringing on so many amazing people.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, everything. We made every mistake in the book our first time when we were doing ultra running, and I like to, looking back, I was just like, with all the mistakes I made, I not knowing any ultra runners at the time, I was just pounding my head against the cement wall over and over and over again. But I just kept telling myself, well, this is just mental toughness, right? Mental toughness. So I guess I learned a lot of that quality through our first couple years of ultra running. But like, we've had some nutritionists on the show, and I didn't even know electrolytes were a thing on our first time. I'm serious. I didn't even know. I even ran a 50-miler, and I didn't even really no, I knew electrolytes were a thing, but I had no idea the importance of it. I'm like, oh, sure, I'll pop a little Gatorade here and there, la-di-da. I mean, that's it. Oh, sure, I guess that could help me. I'll take one here every 3 hours, maybe. I don't know. And so, I remember when we had a nutritionist on our show, my mind was blown, and I was like, oh, my gosh, I've been doing everything wrong. No wonder every run past 10 miles feels so hard. So that was good, and just also a lot of mindset stuff from our guests that have come on the show, and problem solving skills. That's something that I've struggled with, that I've learned, okay, in ultra running, it's about problem solving here. I don't know. What about you, Melody?
Yeah, well, I think just lots of little tips and tricks, like different things people do for blister care, different gear that I've never heard of, different food. Like yesterday, we interviewed someone who said that his favorite food is, he's from the UK, and he eats these like fancy rice cakes or something. And he's like, these get me through every single race. And I'm like, oh, there's another food that I got to try, But really, I think the biggest takeaway from our guests has just been the inspiration and like the mental toughness aspect of it. Everyone has a story, everyone has a why, and it's just so fun learning about why people do what they do.
For those of you that are just joining us, my name is Jason Bahamundi. I'm the founder and one of the co-owners of Run Try Bike, joined by our other co-owner, Om Gandhi. We're talking with Melody and Jacob Bateman of Trail to 100 and Pine Tree Runner accounts. We've just gone over, the start of their podcast, to things that they've learned from guests and their why, which leads me to the question I want to ask Jacob, who just finished running Scout Mountain 100. Why did you pick that race? What was the why behind, this is the one I'm going to train for. This is the one I want to cross the finish line of?
Yeah, so we had actually signed up for the 50-miler on Scout Mountain during COVID year. That was going to be like our big peak training run before our first 100. So it was canceled, obviously. Well, first off, I had spent some time in those mountains, just a little bit, just got a tiny taste and knew they were gorgeous. Secondly, I love the Boy Scouts, and this it just had the name. I grew up working at scout camps, and it has nothing to do with Boy Scouts, this race, but the name appealed to me, so it caught my eye. But like honestly, it was a tough, rugged race, and I like to run races that I guess aren't your big brand names. And this one wasn't a big brand name, but it still gave you the toughness and the ruggedness that like running out here in Utah. That's where we live. There's the Wasatch 100. That's the big one out here. And so it's very similar in vert. There was like 24,000 feet of vert and scout. And I just, I wanted great views and I wanted to be pushed and to be able to, just prove to myself that I can do these tough, rugged runs, and be out there and just enjoy it, I guess. Try to enjoy it.
So did you? You use the word enjoy.
Did I enjoy it? That was something I struggled with, but I was trying to accept through the race. And I will tell you, there was one point in the run where I had a lot of diarrhea going on, and I was throwing up. Like I was seriously stopping about every mile to go poop through this section. And it was during the night, of course, so it was about as miserable as you can get throwing up, using the bathroom all the time, or like using the bushes. And I came into this aid station, and it was kind of a rugged one. There's no cars couldn't get into there. They just got up there with ATVs. They didn't really have a lot there, but just had the essentials and a campfire going, and it's 4 a.m. And I came into that aid station, and it's mile like 55. The race started at noon, so it was a little bit later start time of the race, and feeling pretty low. And I sit down and decide I'm going to try to sip some, Sprite or ginger ale. And Bob Marley actually came on. They had some speakers going, and there's the "Don't Worry About a Thing" song. And I just started kind of instinctively, I'm just sitting there staring at the fire, and I start head bobbing to the song, and the volunteers like, there you go, you're getting it now. And then I start kind of mumbling the lyrics, and he's like, all right. And then all of a sudden, all the volunteers sitting around this campfire at 4 a.m, we all just start singing, Don't Worry About a Thing. And we're all just bobbing in unison. And and we just sang. I just sat there, sipped my Sprite, and sang that, and it really helped lift my spirits at that point. Now there was more lows after that, but at that point, I remember coming out of that aid station. I was like, you know what, like, because it had been a really rough race, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna need to try to enjoy this and make the best, and just make memories while I'm out here. I remember thinking that. Need to make memories while I'm out here, and so that moment helped. But I mean, I still had lots of lows where I wasn't thinking about making memories and thinking about how much it sucked. But that was a moment that I definitely learned, like, hey, just enjoy it. Don't worry about the next 45 miles, even though you got diarrhea. And
That's a quote for the ages.
Yeah.
I'm not going to quote that one.
So Melody, you're seeing this from the other side.
Yeah.
What's going through your mind as you're watching your husband, struggle through this process of getting to the finish line and knowing that he's not doing well?
Yeah, well, we've been through this a few times now, so I was prepared to see Jacob at his lowest, and we, I've helped him get out of that a few times. And oh, sorry, I got distracted by Ryan's comment.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I thought I've seen Jacob at his lowest, but I met him in the morning. So this is after he is thrown up in diarrhea all night long. I meet him in the morning at this aid station, and I have never seen Jacob so low. He was unresponsive. People are asking him questions. He was like, if he was alone, he'd probably walk off a cliff. Like he had no idea where he was or what was happening. And it before the race, Jacob kept saying, he's like, I just have this feeling. I have this feeling that I'm going to DNF. I'm like, stop saying that. And it's like, and I didn't tell him this, but I kind of had a feeling too that I feel like this race is going to be tough. And so anyways, when he came in that morning, I was like, oh my gosh, like, is he going to do this? Like our last 200s, we're like, we're going to do it. Jacob's going to do it, not worried about it. But this is the first time I was like, wow, he may not do it. And the rest of the race, he was chasing cutoffs. And I was just holding my breath at every single aid station, praying that he came in before the cutoff. So it was just high anxiety all day that second day. Yeah. And just hoping that he didn't like become delusional again and walk off a cliff or something.
One of the things I want to get from both of you is your thoughts about the race, because I read Izzy's comments about Luke Nelson, who's the race director. His goal was to get 50-50 male-female participation. He was really active, during the event in and of itself, as well as during the pre-race presentation about the event and everything else. And it just like, that's the kind of leadership I think we need in endurance sports is Luke Nelson. So Melly, we'll start with you. Like, what was your overall feeling about the event, how well it was run, and what did you see that made it different than some of the other races you've been to and been a part of? And Jacob, just so you can prepare, I'll ask you that same question.
Yeah, well, it definitely, we've, done a few hundreds and we volunteered at lots of races, and it is the crispest, is that a word? Sharpest 100-mile race. The most crisp. Anyways, it was the sharpest, most well-organized race I've ever seen. It was so sharp. The instructions were so good. And I loved, there was a pre-race meeting where he, talked about his goal of getting more women, and they made a lot of accommodations for women, which I thought was awesome. They had feminine hygiene products at all the aid stations. They didn't have this year, but next year they're planning on lactation stations. And for all the women, because women don't typically wear big belt buckles, they gave all the women like 100-mile pendants that they could wear after the race. Cool. I thought that was so cool. Yeah. So overall, the vibe was great. I feel like it was a very well organized. Everyone was so loving and happy. It was great.
Yeah.
So Jacob, from the athlete's perspective, yeah, please.
I mean, from an athlete's perspective, a lot of those women kicked my butt out there on the trail. It's like I was thoroughly impressed because I think the field was 44% female for the 100-mile race, which is way higher than normal. And anyways, so there was a lot of tough women out there. Also, I thought it was awesome. I grew up in Oklahoma around a lot of Native Americans, and race was being run on, it was previous native land. The natives were there first, right up in Idaho, in the southeast corner of Idaho. And he had a tribe member from I think the Shoshone-Bannock tribe come and talk to us before the race as well about the land and the area. And I thought that was really cool, to just remember, like, wow, like this is a special place that you're at, and remember the people that were here before you. But yeah, he ran a great race, and he was very sharp, and he just thought of details that just tried to make everyone feel loved and included. He hugged every single finisher, from the 21-miler to the 100-miler. He greeted them. All 400
of them.
All 400, and he hugged each one of them. So it was really well organized. I wasn't expecting it to be like this because I hadn't heard a lot about Scout, but after experiencing Scout, I'm like, how is this not a more popular race? Like, Luke puts on an amazing race.
And where was it? Where's the event held?
Pocatello, Idaho. Okay. Right outside of Pocatello, Idaho, in the mountains above there. Awesome. So we live in Ogden, Utah, so it's about 2 hours north of us. So not that far from us.
Those are
very cool.
Those are the things you remember during the races, right? Like, you have like all these stories about like diarrhea and all that, but you also have like all these like core moments where you're like singing Bob Marley and like you're being hugged by like, you know, 400 people are being hugged by Luke, or, you know, like this amazing race is being like all these amazing people. And I think that's one of the things that, like, would you say that's one of the things that keeps drawing people back to this distance?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like what? When else am I? If I didn't run 100 miles, when else am I going to be sitting around a campfire at 4 a.m. after having chronic diarrhea, singing Bob Marley in some canyon with a bunch of they were ski patrol. They were like a ski patrol guys, and you know, and so like one thing that I've realized with ultra running, it's like it gives you these experiences that honestly, like this is life. Like this is what it's all about. Like this is living, you know? And it's not just working a night. Sure, you got to make money. You got to go to work and do all that. But on the weekends when you're not at work, like get out, do these things because this is called living right here and making these sort of memories, no matter how miserable they might be.
Man, I say it all the time. Go outside and touch grass. Like, just don't be inside scrolling mindlessly, endlessly. Like, all that shit's going to be there. Go outside and touch grass. Like, just go outside, experience life. So I normally don't ask athletes who just finished racing what's next, but the hell with it. What's next?
Oh, man.
Oh,
Well, I don't have any huge. So here's what our plans are. So Melody, my wife, she is pregnant right now. Yeah. And so our kid comes in October, and I mean, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but it's been a little bit hard on Melody to not be able to be in all these races because I know that's where her heart is. And my goal, honestly, is next year we're getting Melody to run 100 miles, and that's the goal. Melody's been looking at races already, but she's going to have her kid, and we're going to get her out there and running 100 miles. That's my goal, and I'm sure, honestly, my goal right now is to learn how to fix my gut because I run 300s, and every 100 is a complete nightmare with my gut, and I'm like, I need to make some big time changes and figure this out. But I really just want to get Melody to run 100 miles. That's my goal.
Melody, I'm going to ask you a question here in a second, but here's my tip on the gut issue. So when I raced Cocodona a few years ago, I could not take any more gels. Like my mouth was killing me. It was awful. So what I did at the aid stations is they had oatmeal packets. And so I took the oatmeal packets, put it in a Ziploc bag with some cold water, and literally made mush. And then I would just squeeze the cold oatmeal mush into my mouth. And so you got carbs, you got fiber, you got calories, and I was set. I ate mush for like 3.5 days. So that's my tip to you.
That's not a bad idea. That's a good tip.
Got you. I'm going to, sorry guys, I got to plug in my phone, so don't mind me for just 1 second.
No worries. We love first for every fireside chat. We had one where, you know, we have like running buddies on there like dogs. We had somebody bring an actual fire to the fireside chat.
So Melanie, you're looking at 100s. You don't have to rank them, but if you're looking at different races, which ones are you are floating towards the top of your wish list?
Well, the one that I'm leaning towards right now is the Bear here in Utah, which we're gonna help Ohm with here in a couple of years. We talked about, but the reason it calls to me is, and this is such a silly reason, but I really love bears. And I would love some cool bear swag. So, oh heck yeah, that's sweet. That is a sweet tattoo. Bears have always been my favorite. I feel like they're my spirit animal, and it also would be perfect timing. It's in the fall, so it would give me a full year to, you know, recover and build back up and do a 100-mile race. And I just have to say that my husband is the most supportive, amazing running partner ever. It's, you know, maybe pregnancy hormones, but I was cheering up a little bit as you were saying that your next goal is to help me get to 100 miles. So anyways, it helps to have a good training partner.
Sure. certainly does. For those of you that are just joining us, my name is Jason Bahamundi. I'm the founder and one of the co-owners of Run Try Bike. We're being joined by our other co-owner, Om Gandhi, as well as Melody and Jacob Bateman of Trail to 100. We've discussed with them, why they started Trail to 100, as well as Jacob's most recent accomplishment at Scout Mountain 100. So what I'd like to do now a little bit is get into a little bit about the podcast in and of itself. And we talked about where you see it going, but you guys just recently partnered with Switchback. And so Melody, give us a little bit more about that partnership, that giveaway that you're doing, so that we can get people to, one, listen to your podcast because it's phenomenal, but two, to also know a little bit more about Switchback and what you guys are doing.
Thank you very much. So Switchback, they're a startup, and they sell high quality running buffs. And their thing is, not only are the running buffs high quality, but they're super, super fun. So they have lots of fun designs and patterns, and I feel like they have designs and patterns for every vibe. They have, mine and Jacob's vibe, we like the mountains and the, what is this thing, the skeletons, and kind of the rugged vibe. And then they also have crazy things like sharks drinking boba on a lawn chair and just crazy. So they're super awesome. Switchback sent us some of their buffs, and we've been using them. They're great for the winter when you're cold, great for the summer. This is what I mainly use my buffs for, and I know lots of runners can relate, but I'm a very snotty runner, so I use my buffs to blow my nose in while I'm running. And it also, our buffs came in handy. We supported my dad in a 50-mile race out on Antelope Island out here, which was tons of bugs. So we had buffs over our mouth so we weren't gagging on too many bugs. And anyways, the buffs are great quality. They're super, super awesome. So our giveaway is we're giving away 5 custom Trail to 100 gaiters that Switchback made. It's just started today, and we're going to do a live with the owner of Switchback next Tuesday to announce the winners.
Michelle Johnson, you can say her name. So
okay.
Yeah, so Switchback is a partner of ours as well, and we can certainly agree with everything that you said about their product and what they're doing and who they are as people in general. It is amazing, right? So you guys are relatively new, started in 2020. Michelle started this year. We started in 2021 ourselves, right? So we're all relatively new, and it's amazing to hear the stories that we can all tell and share about our adventures and the things that we've come through and gone through and stuff like that. Jacob, I'm going to put you on the spot. What's one of the funniest things that you've heard throughout the process of interviewing people for your podcast, or while you were out there, running your 100s and talking to people and just hearing, because these stories crack me up. I mean, I know you were in pain and wasn't great throwing up and having diarrhea, but I'm laughing. Like, 'cause I've been there. Like, literally at Canyons 100 in April, I was laying on the side of the trail throwing up. So I get it, right? Like, I've been there.
Well, I mean, Melody's got a pretty funny story. Well, Melody remembers this better than me because this one happened to me. But on our first 100, when we did our self-supported one, and it was like 3 a.m. and we had never done anything like that before and didn't know quite how to handle the tiredness that comes over you. And we ended up laying down on the trail for a dirt nap. And Melody says she remembers opening her eyes and seeing me, and just bugs were crawling over my face. And I didn't even care, and nor was I doing a thing about it. And it's just like you get to that pure exhaustion where you got bugs crawling over your face, but the thought of wiping them away seems like too much work, and you're just like, I don't care. These bugs can do to me whatever they want to do to me,
Mel, you got to share a story of your own that just had you laughing every time you think of it.
Oh man. I got it. Well, that's probably one of our funniest moments was seeing all the bugs crawling over Jacob because it is just such a depressing moment. I guess here's one kind of crazy story that wasn't funny at the moment, but kind of funny now. Is we were charged. This was on a race. This was just a training one. We were charged by a moose,
No way.
and it was we accepted death in that moment. So we had walked. It was a new canyon that we'd never been in. It was on Thanksgiving morning, and we were like, man, we're gonna ruin Thanksgiving for our family because we're gonna die. But anyway, so yeah. So we're going back into this canyon we've never been in before, and it's just getting thicker and darker. But we love that. We're like, oh, this is so cool, and it's kind of snowy, and we get back and we see this moose, and what the way I remember it in my head is I just see its face like poking out from all the trees and leaves, and it was right on the trail, and I've never been scared of animals. We've seen tons of moose on the trails, and I didn't think anything of it, and I'm like, oh cool, look at the moose, and Jacob's like, Melody, be careful, and I'm like, calm down, it's just a moose, like we see these all the time.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so we're like, let's back away, wait for the moose to move, and then we'll keep going. So we back away, and we're kind of waiting, and then all of a sudden we hear boom, 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 and the moose like comes around the corner and it's charging us. So just immediately, instinctively, we just turn around and we book it out of there. So we're like running full speed ahead. That was the moment I accepted death, and I was like, this is the moment we die. And Jacob, he's like, let's pull off into these bushes. It won't run into the bushes. So we pull off into the bushes and turn around, and the moose isn't there. So we're like, okay, we're in the clear. So we're coming out of the bushes, and we're kind of starting to walk away. And then same thing, we hear the boo, 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 and the moose comes around the corner again, and it's chasing us again. And so at that point, we just turned around and booked it out of there. And I don't remember how long we were running for, but we didn't stop for anything. We didn't look behind us. We just ran for our lives until we could see the sun. And thank you, Heavenly Father, that we were not pummeled to death.
To this day, still the fastest mile splits you have.
Probably.
We weren't in our correct heart rate zones that run, that's for sure.
I do remember yelling. I was like, we're definitely not in our zone 2 right now.
I was going to say, you didn't act like typical endurance athletes. Like, my training plan doesn't call for a zone 5. I got to slow down.
Yeah.
Exactly. But, as Melody said that, I got one more funny story. This one's from a guest of our podcast. It was, his name's Jared, but he goes by Chief. He's a Navy chief officer. And he's actually has a podcast of his own called The OK Runners. Him and another guy, they're Oklahomans. So they document their experience of going after Leadville for the first time. And so they're from Oklahoma, so they don't really get much altitude out there, much mountainous terrain. And he showed up to Leadville without any poles to help go up and down, Hope Pass. And he ended up doing Hope Pass both times without any poles, and he was the only runner out there without a pole in that section, and it's just funny. And the crazy thing is, he finished. He's one tough son of a gun, and he finished. But he said he remembered like stopping at her, looking around, and realizing that he was the only runner on the course without trekking poles.
It's super impressive because I paced and went up and over Hope Pass myself, and we were going 30-35 minute miles. It's not like you're blazing through that section, but having the poles just for that component for that 2 miles is so important. That's impressive.
Yeah,
that is really impressive. You got a funny story of your own you want to share before we jump into the rapid fire questions?
Oh man, nothing except for the fact that I got stuck behind a yak train in Nepal.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, it was pretty funny until it was all fun and games until they started like getting into a farting contest with us.
Oh, jeez.
And we were going like you can imagine that there's no way you could train for any element of like being stuck behind a yak caravan or a yak train on the single track, but they're always like, mountainside, don't be on the other side or I'll knock you off the mountain. And then next thing you know, they're keeping like this straight face and like getting into a farting contest with us. And we'll forget that.
So,
Yeah, you can't prepare for something like that.
No, and I think this is why we love these sports, is because we have these stories. Like I'll tell you, like my first 100, I was at my second 100 was at Rocky Raccoon. I came up to the aid station. It's at the Damn Good aid station or something to that effect, and it's a massive aid station because you hit it twice on the loop, and they've got disco balls. It's party and all kinds of stuff, and they had a tray of tater tots. You know, and you're gross and disgusting. It's in the middle of the night, right? Like Melody, like you, I snot everywhere. Like that's why I use the buffs on my hand. Like it's just booger everywhere. I just put my hand. I don't know any better. So I just put my hand right in the middle of the tater tots, and I could see the aid station volunteer. Her face was like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Because they have like all the nice little Dixie cups to the side that are all partitioned out already, you know, that they've spent hours setting up, and I'm just like hungry and gross and sweaty, and I'm like, just shoveling it all in my mouth, you know. As I'm leaving the aid station, I could see her picking the tray up and throwing it out, you know. She can't serve people.
Oh, that's funny.
I think this is
so true. That is, every ultra runner just goes up to the aid station and they all suddenly just like, oh, that's it. And then
no one uses the cups.
Like, no, that's this table over there.
I think it's why we keep coming back to this stuff. And I told you guys when I was on your podcast, right? Like having been a triathlete for 8 to 10 years beforehand, and you know, I think trail running is harder than an Ironman 100 milers. Greatly harder than running an Ironman. But I also think that these stories that you get them here that don't typically happen during an Ironman. And I think that's why everybody should get out on a trail. And whether it's a 100 miler or a 50 miler or a 50K marathon, half marathon distance, get out on the trails and experience the sport and the endurance sport world from a different perspective, because I think it'll change how you perceive endurance sports in general. Like things will seem to be easier. I'll put that in air quotes for those of you who are listening on the podcast version.
Amen.
But thank you guys so much. We've had a great time with you guys. I don't want to keep you too long, but we do love to wrap up our fireside chats with some rapid fire questions. They typically are food-based, but we'll get into the food ones a little bit in a second here. Jacob is 1-0 with the right answer, being that no pineapple on pizza. Melody, you're 0 for 1 right now, so we'll have to get better on that.
How about I'm like 0.5?
No, it's all or nothing.
It's
It's yay or nay.
1-0. So call 1-1.
But anyway, so Melody, we'll start with you. When you're out running, are you listening to music, podcast, or nothing at all?
All the above. I do. Sometimes I like nothing. Sometimes I'm in the mood for music. Sometimes I binge my podcast. Just depends on the day, honestly.
So if you're listening to music, what's the genre and what's the favorite artist in that genre?
Okay, don't judge me. Everyone's going to judge me for saying this. Taylor Swift.
Nice.
I love Taylor
No
Swift.
I'm a huge Justin Bieber fan. Why would I be judging you?
Okay, this is a safe place.
Jacob, for you, what are you listening to when you're out running?
Mainly podcasts, but I do like music when I'm in the pain cave.
And then same question then, genre and favorite artist in that genre then.
Okay, country. I know it's not really a pump up genre, but I love good old country. In fact, me and my pacer this past race at mile 90, we were jamming hard to Garth Brooks together. So
nice.
Yeah,
you know what?
Memories, right?
Country grew on me after I started doing ultra running, and I was like, listen to these lyrics. It's so amazing.
Yeah,
I feel like country kind of matches the ultra vibe, you know?
It's the whole vibe.
Yeah, not me. I'm a New York City kid. We'll not be listening to Candy Crush anytime soon. So we'll jump into the food categories now. So Jacob, I'll start with you. Is candy corn a real candy, or is it just candle wax covered in sugar?
Candle wax covered in sugar.
Yes, 2-0. Melody?
I'm gonna ditto that. That stuff is nasty.
It's gross, right? Like the
Yeah,
fact that
man.
they keep making it. Like,
I don't
who's
know.
buying this
Yeah.
shit?
I don't know
That's what I'm saying.
how that stays around. Tradition must be
Seriously.
a very powerful thing.
Yeah.
Like grandmas all over the world still buying this and putting it in a little candy dish, and that's what keeps that coming back for more. Like, I don't understand.
Who knows, man? Who knows?
Melody, are you a licorice fan?
Only if it's red vines.
Only if it's red vines. Very nice. So that was going to be my question. If so, is it Twizzlers or red vines? Jacob?
Okay.
There's some contention in our marriage over this question.
Okay, if you're gonna give me just red Twizzlers or red vines, I'll take the red vines. But if the Twizzlers are the filled Twizzlers with like the lemon and cherry filled Twizzlers, those are heavenly. I will take those over red vines any day.
The most specific answer I've heard to a licorice question ever.
I'm telling you, for our listeners out there, if you have not tried the Twizzlers, they're called Twizzlers filled, I think, and it's the lemon and the cherry combo. It has both of them. Oh my gosh, they are
The problem
great.
is, though, if it's filled, you can't use it as a straw, right?
Yeah, I love licorice.
Oh, that's gross.
Using it as a straw is just wrong.
Nobody's a fan of black licorice then? No Sambuca
No.
fans in the
No way in heck you could pay me enough.
All right, Jacob, back to you now. Peeps, is that a real candy, or is it just the marshmallow covered in glitter?
Not a candy at all.
Melody, are you a Peeps fan?
No, that I feel like that's right along the same line of candy corn. I don't even understand why those things are made. I feel like nobody likes those.
It's crazy. So we've had people who like them, but here's the crazy thing. They've told us that the best way to enjoy a Peep is when it's stale. So it's like, so you'd rather have a doorstop covered in glitter than the gooey marshmallow covered in glitter? They don't understand.
We had somebody who was on our chat mail me and Jason a stale Peep to try.
Awful.
Did you try
Awful. Yeah, it's terrible. Like,
Oh.
terrible. Like, I don't understand. We did have somebody else, Kim, told us that if you put 2 Peeps in the microwave, you put toothpicks in their beaks, and you set them off in the microwave so if they spin. It's called peep jousting. This is a game I've never played. It's a game I'll never play, but if you're looking to do something with Peeps, there you have it.
That sounds fun. I would do that.
Yeah, I might buy a piece to do that, but not to eat it.
Yeah.
That's why people still buy Peeps for Peep shopping.
Yeah. This is the kind of stuff that's going to keep that business going forever, right? Oh, Peep jousting, I'll give it a try. Nobody's eating this stuff. Melody?
But that should be your sign right there when people are playing with their food instead of eating it, right?
So, Melody, are you is red velvet an actual flavor, or is it just chocolate cake with red dye?
Well, it actually is just chocolate cake with red dye.
Yes.
If you look it up, that's all it is.
Yes.
So I would just rather eat chocolate and get rid of the, if I'm going to eat something totally unhealthy, I might as well pick the kind of healthier option.
Are you eating red velvet cake, Jacob, or you just say, just give me the chocolate cake?
Well, red velvet tastes differently than chocolate cake. I'm telling
Oh, it's
you,
just your
that.
eyes are
No, it's
deceiving
its own
you.
flavor. It's its own flavor. I'm saying it. Red velvet cake tastes different than a chocolate cake.
It's just that buttercream frosting that's getting you there. It's just chocolate cake. And if you're going to have buttercream frosting, then you got to have carrot cake. Like, that's the best cake, period, bar none.
I would agree with that. With that. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
if we're talking pineapple can go in carrot cake because it adds moisture to it, so I'm cool with it there. You don't actually taste the pineapple. It does get baked into it, so you don't actually taste it, but it adds moisture to the cake. And I'm also a raisin guy in carrot cake. Are you folks raisins in your carrot cake or sans raisins?
No, I really love raisins, but not in anything else besides just plain raisins.
Raisinettes.
Logan is not a carrot cake fan.
Come on, Logan, come to our side, buddy. Come on. Put some raisins in it and get that buttercream frosting. Fantastic.
Buttercream frosting, no. Yeah.
I feel like you can put buttercream frosting on anything, and it makes it a little better.
So here's a story. I was pacing at Badwater one year and went to the grocery store, and one of the top athletes, I forget her name, but we were talking about nutrition for this event and what are you going to be doing, and she's literally buying pints of frosting. Like that was part of her nutrition plan, was to eat frosting. Like
sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Forget it. I'd be doing what you did, diarrhea and throwing up all over the place. Like it would not make it.
Talk about sugar bombing.
Yeah, but again, it goes back to the whole concept, right? Like everybody's different. Figure out what works for you and run with it.
Yeah, literally.
So
run with it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Last question. This one will go to you, Jacob, first. After Scout Mountain will be a perfect opportunity, maybe, but after a hard training run or a hard race, what's your go-to recovery meal?
Probably not the healthiest, but pizza. Love me some pizza.
Nice. Without pineapple, perfect.
Yeah.
Melody, what's your go-to recovery food?
I've always said a giant burrito. The perfect day is going on a big, crazy adventure, starving yourself, then coming home and eating a giant burrito.
What's in the burrito?
Black beans, maybe like a Cafe Rio, like black beans, pork, all the stuff. Like it has to be at least twice the size of your face, kind of burrito.
Are you making it spicy or are you going like, mild?
I do medium, a little bit kick, but not too much. Or like, why did I just forget? Jacob, what's that other burrito place? Beto's? Beto's would be a good one too. Yeah.
Potatoes, burritos.
Yeah.
It's clearly a favorite of Jacob's as well, as the laughter tells you how good it is.
Yeah.
You guys have been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us on this Instagram Live. For those of you that were just getting in late, it'll be on our feed and the Trail to 100 feed here in a minute. But if you don't have time for it today, it'll be on our YouTube channel at Run Try Mag by Thursday, and the podcast on Apple and Spotify by when,
By Wednesday.
By Wednesday of next week. So thank you all for joining us. Jacob, Melody, thank you guys for joining us. Congrats on your Scout 100 and good luck the rest of the way, Melody, with your pregnancy. Wish you guys all the best.
Thank you so much. You guys are awesome.
Chat soon.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
thanks.